When I was looking for a name, I wanted something that represented who I am in fashion, which is African, but with an Afropolitan twist. So I'm from Africa and I embrace that, but my ideas are not solely based on what I've experienced in Africa. Having moved around a lot and having experienced different cultures, I wanted to have a name that represents where I'm from but doesn't limit me. Because sometimes the problem with picking an ethnic name is it's too definitive. It kind of puts a full stop to what it means. If it's something that represents one thing, then you're kind of stuck in that box. But Nguwo being a generic word almost, because the idea was with cloth you can make clothes, you can make stuff for interior design, you can make canvas for art, you can create many things. So it just kind of made sense that the name should be Nguwo, because it starts off with an idea and then it creates itself into something else. This ballet has been the highlight of my year because everybody asks me why do a ballet on fashion? If people are so confused, and my initial reaction was art is not separate from other arts. You can't separate fashion from any other art. You can't separate painting from any other art, because art it's too broad to just be limited to just doing one thing and sticking with it. You'll find people who paint don't just paint people, they paint landscape, or they paint ideas, or they create something with their painting. It doesn't necessarily have to mean anything. Same thing with fashion. And ballet is about interpreting stories. And this ballet is about interpreting the story of fashion. So it just made sense that ballet, something that's been linked with fashion since it started, would be the thing that is used to interpret fashion over the last 100 years. Fashion is how I interpret myself. It's my avenue for freedom. And so if I can get that freedom from fashion, I want to give other people that freedom as well. Because we all have different ways of expressing ourselves. We have different ways of appreciating our lives. And so if I use fashion as an outlet for somebody to express themselves, if they aren't able to speak in public, or if they aren't able to be around a lot of people, if you then take the thing that they love, which is fashion, and put them in a show, they forget that they're afraid of being in front of people because they're following a passion that overshadows every other inferiority they may have about themselves. So it's more of, this is what it did for me, I'm sure it can do it for other people. The ultimate goal behind Nguwo Inc. is to be a true interpretation of African fashion. It's not just about a trend or a fascination with a particular style of fashion. It's about bringing the concept of African fashion to the rest of the world in a way that's true to who we are as Africans in our diversity versus just as a Zimbabwean. So I guess it would be a global platform for African fashion. Eco fashion has a role to play in global events. I think sometimes we're too caught up in what we do that we forget that it actually affects the rest of the world and of what happens in the world. So eco fashion, specifically at World Youth Day, is highlighting the fact that we all have a part to play in protecting and preserving our environment. We all have a part to play in making sure that the next generation and the one after that have something to explore. It's not just all degraded or it's been exploited, but they have the same or better opportunity than we have now, because we played our part in conserving what gives us life. People must be ready to appreciate the skill level that goes into creating versus designing. In Africa, we have a lot of techniques that we've used, some of which has been passed on, some has died slowly, and you have to now go and look for people who can slightly remember how it was done. But we have a lot of tradecraft that we can share with the rest of the world that's been forgotten. A lot of techniques did actually come from Africa, because that's how we made our clothes. We didn't have the luxury of just sending it off somewhere, or we had to sit down in our little communities and figure out how to put these pieces of cloth together. So I think people should expect to see a revival of craftsmanship in fashion.